Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce here in the study room of the Institute of the Archaeology of the Czech Academy of Sciences, as well as online, Professor Ryuzo Fujiyama from Meiji University in Tokyo, in Japan, who is a specialist in the late Pleistocene to early Holocene human adaptation to environmental changes in the Far East, in the Japanese islands. During his intensive study of this phenomenon, he encountered another one, which is the early pottery, so-called Jomon pottery of Japan, which is really intriguing topic, not only for this part of the world, but globally. It is among the earliest pottery produced by the hunter-gatherers at all, already in the pre-Holocene times. And the problem is that this phenomenon, very well announced many years ago, has been very little published in other than Japanese language, and apart few specific studies. Ryuzo just prepared a manuscript to be published in the near future about this topic in a very detailed and as well a broad perspective of the human adaptation. So the early pottery in Japan. Ryuzo, the word is yours. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the interaction. And shall I stand up here? Or okay.
This is the list, and this is the pointer here.
Okay. I'll try it. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. And my name is Ryuzo Fujiyama, as he introduced me. And I'm a professor of archaeology at Meiji University, Tokyo. And so maybe I'm afraid you don't know the name of Meiji University. And so it's a leading public and private university in Japan and located in the middle of Tokyo. And so we have been reading the field of archaeology in Japan for the past 70 years. And today I will talk about how hunter-gatherer in the Far East and adapted ceramic technology, and especially focusing on the Japanese island or Japanese archipelago. And so this is not my first time in Prague. And so maybe I remember last March, right? So I visited this institute and meet Radisław and Renke and exchange our ideas here. And so we are also working how hunter-gatherers adapted and the first ceramic in the world, and from African perspective, and as well as Asian Far and Eastern perspective. Yes. It doesn't work. Okay, thank you very much. I'm currently a professor of archaeology at Meiji University, and at the same time, I was a visiting researcher in Germany, and from 2023 to 24, and I was based in the Kiel University, and at the same time, Free University Berlin. And that's why I could easily visit here last year. Radisław introduced, my consistent interest is hunter-gatherers' response to climatic changes, especially during the late Pleistocene and early Holocene. And so originally, I worked on research technologies and hunter-gatherers' mobility strategies. And in this context, And I'm currently working on the emergence of ceramic technology in the Far East. And so I'm now working on the contextual approach. And so, of course, and so I'm working on ceramic technology itself, but at the same time, I need to consider the historical event from multiple perspectives, and such as hunter-gatherer mobility technology, and stone tool reuse, and their sedentarization, and many other factors. And so, as I mentioned before, and the Far East was primary cradles of ceramic technology. And currently, the earliest ceramics in the world is supposed to be introduced in southern China. And so, as far as I know, and so the radiocarbon dates here date back to as early as 20,000 BP. And so, along with this area, we can see several core regions of early ceramics, such as northern China, and the lower Amur region here, and Trans-Baikal region to the east of Lake Baikal. And at the same time, and here is the most important cradle of early ceramic, Japanese archipelago. And so I'm not sure, which is the original, the original birthplace of ceramic technology. I can't say that exactly, and that's I regret that as well. But and it's sure what is certain right now is the invention of ceramic technology and happened here, and so independently from agricultural societies. That's why, I'm now working on the Far Eastern area. And here, I need to talk about the importance of archaeological practice in the Japanese archipelago. Here I summarize the importance of Japanese archipelago. And the Japanese archipelago provides an ideal setting for understanding the emergence of ceramic technology. And so here is the geology and geography of the Japanese archipelago. And here lies the Sakhalin Island and Far Eastern Russia. And outside this map, and so here lies the Taiwan Island. And the Japanese archipelago is stretching between these islands over the distance of nearly 3,000 kilometers. Currently, Japan is a very small country, and not so wide, but very long, and it's very characteristic here. Please remember, here is Hokkaido Island, and here is Honshu Island, and Shikoku and Kyushu, and Ryukyu Island is running this year, and so as far as to Taiwan Island. And what is important here is this longness of the island. And most of the archipelago is located in the mid-latitude temperate regions. However, to the north of the archipelago and the Hokkaido and Sakhalin is currently located in subarctic regions. Meanwhile, the Ryukyu arc is located in subtropical regions. This environment or vegetational contrast is very important for us. This varying landscape are so condensed in these small islands. And at the same time, Japanese islands are mostly mountainous. And we can see and we can find so many and so high mountains of the height of around 3,000 meters. At the same time, we can find several coastal plains. So this varying landscape of both mountains, mountainous, and low-lying plains are also condensed in small regions. So at the same time, this is the most important thing. So intensive archaeological excavations that are conducted in this island, in this small island. Currently, nearly 500,000 archaeological sites are identified in this small island. And we conduct 10,000 archaeological excavations each year. So currently, this result in there's a very abundant number of early ceramics. And so I've already recognized early ceramics from the late Pleistocene, from approximately 300 to 400 sites. This is an incredible number, you know. So this is that's why, I need to say this is an ideal location to work on the emergence of ceramic technology in hunter-gatherer societies. And I need to go on to the next slide, but in advance, please remember the early landscape of the Japanese archipelago during the late Pleistocene, especially during in the middle of last glacial maximum, Hokkaido was connected to Sakhalin and lower Amur regions. In other words, the Hokkaido Islands was a part of Eurasian continent. It was at the tip of the large peninsula extending from the Russian Far East. And however, Honshu Island and Shikoku and the Kyushu Islands were combined into larger islands. And so it is called Paleo Honshu Island. And so this island, larger island, was not connected to the Eurasian continent. Instead, they faced the Eurasian continent across small channels, and here and here. And here is a Tsugaru Strait, and separating the Eurasian continent and the Paleo Honshu Island. And here lies Tsushima Strait, or in other words, Korean Strait. And that also separate the Paleo Honshu Island and the Eurasian continent. And so you need to remember this situation to understand my following presentation. It's stuck again.
Okay, try again, please.
No. Okay. Okay, let's get back. So here is the structure of this lecture today. So I will talk about how hunter-gatherer introduce ceramic technology in the Japanese archipelago through multiple perspectives. But you need to remember, the Japanese archaeologists normally adapt the periodization known as the Jomon period. We don't employ the continental and Neolithic period because human adaptation in the Japanese archipelago was pretty different from European one. So hunter-gatherer became sedentary because they didn't adapt agriculture until first millennium BC. It's quite late. So because of that reason, we normally employ the periodization of the German period following the late Paleolithic period. Okay. So in this lecture, I will use calibrated BP unless otherwise, and noted. It's a typical way of Japanese archaeology. So here is the first topic. When did hunter-gatherers adopt ceramic technology? To put my conclusion first, the ceramic technology in the Japanese archipelago can be securely dated to 16,000 calibrated BP. It's very incredible number, as you know. So before talking about radiocarbon dates of early ceramics, I will talk about when modern humans reached the archipelago. And to put the conclusion first, they entered the archipelago around 38,000 BP and remained non-potters until 16,000 BP. And here is an illustration of that shows regional chronology of the late Paleolithic period. And as I mentioned here, there are currently over 10,000 Paleolithic sites across the Japanese archipelago. And most of these sites belong to the late Paleolithic period. And so modern human arrived here and employs these typical lithic assemblages around 38,000 BP. And this is thought to be the first arrival of modern humans in the Japanese archipelago. And so I think you need to remember the final phase of the late Paleolithic period in the Japanese archipelago is characterized and these micro-bridge assemblages. So I will talk about this assemblage in later slide. So then around 16,000 BP, the first ceramics appeared in the Paleo Honshu Island. And so that's why I distinguish this period from the late Paleolithic period and call the period a German period. Okay. It's text again. Okay, I know. So then I will talk about the matrix of the earliest ceramics. And the point here is hunter-gatherers with bifacial point assemblages played a crucial role. And here is a typical case of the earliest ceramics in Japan. And this is the most famous case of Maeda Kochi site and Kitahara site and Kitahara site and Katsaka site. And so these sites are also located in Kanto plain that is located in the Tokyo metropolitan area. And so these early ceramics are essentially associated with these bifacial point assemblages. So at the same time, these materials are excavated from the uppermost part of the Tachikawa Rome formations. That was formed during the late Pleistocene. We can easily confirm their antiquity. And from the stratigraphical context, and this earliest ceramics inevitably appears from the uppermost part of this Rome formations. Here is a same situation here. The Arias ceramics appears here. And so basically, the artifacts from the Jomon period are so unearthed from this brackish soil. Okay. Okay, so we need to talk about the radiocarbon dates of the Arias ceramics. As I mentioned earlier, the Arias ceramics in the Japanese archipelago can be securely dated back to 16,000 BP. And here is a famous ASO material from the Oda Yamamoto site. And this site is located in the northernmost part of the Pile Honshu Island. So, and these Risic assemblages, and that there is characterized with bifacial points, and at the same time, so these edge ground axes are generally called Mikoshiba assemblages. This assemblage was initially thought to be late and the Paleolithic period and until 1970s. However, and the excavation of the Oda Yamamoto site in 1980s and so revealed the fact that these assemblages are associated with these small fragments of rock and so pottery. And in 1990s, these ceramics were so directly radiocarbon dated. And then, so we have the idea, and these Risic assemblages are so certainly belong to the earliest part of the Jomon period. Okay. So, and I need to add this fact, and so similar radiocarbon dates are also assigned to associated materials from the Kanto plains and everywhere. So these materials are also radiocarbon dated to 16,000 and calibrated BP. So, and I can securely indicate this is one of the earliest and ceramics in the Far East. In other words, in the world. Okay. So, to the next one. Wait a moment, please. And this radiocarbon dates of 16 and 1000 BP, and so indicate a very important fact that the first potters introduced ceramic technology in a cold environment that is not different from the late Paleolithic period. You can see the radiocarbon dates of the earliest ceramics. And these radiocarbon dates ranges mostly between 16,000 and 15,000 BP. This means these ceramics were invented or introduced and during the harsh period of the late Pleistocene, before the Bering-Arctic interstadium. So, and this suggests the climatic warming and itself was not the primary trigger for its emergence. However, and I don't say, and so the ceramic technology has nothing to do with the climatic changes, because the ceramic technology and so became so ubiquitous, or they can be widespread during the Bering-Arctic interstadium. And so during the early Holocene, we can find early ceramics during this period everywhere in Japan. And it's not an exaggeration. And even, I make a short survey around my house in Yokohama, and we can find several early ceramics during this period. So now you can understand it, and it's not an exaggeration. So, So, and that's why I described this sentence: with the onset of the early Holocene, hunter-gatherers began using ceramic vessels in large quantities. So now you understand and how early ceramics in Japan date back. So, and now, I will talk about the second topic: who was the first potters in the Far East? And actually, this is very difficult questions for archaeologists in the Far East. But so I need to talk about the current situation of the Far East. So, there is two different hypotheses in the Far East, and single origin hypothesis and multiple origin hypothesis. And as I mentioned earlier, so current radiocarbon dates suggest the hunter-gatherers in southern China produced earliest ceramics as early as 20,000 calibrated BB. So many Western archaeologists believe the hunter-gatherer in this area first adopted ceramic technology, then they expanded such technology and especially to the north, and then to westward, and as far as to around the Baltic Sea, like Peter Jordan. So, meanwhile, some Russian archaeologists expect multiple origins, that in other words, the ceramic technology in southern China are separated from northern China Japanese archipelago. And I'm not confident which hypothesis is correct, but now I can say it's different hunter-gatherers with the different risk assemblages adapted ceramic technology. So, for example, the hunter-gatherers in southern China basically employed such cobble tool assemblages that was a kind of adaptation to Roma environment. In contrast, in northern China or Russian Far East, they basically adapted bifacial and point assemblages or microbraided assemblages. In Japan, hunter-gatherers with these bifacial point assemblages essentially introduced first ceramics. That's why at the same time, this is sure different hunter-gatherer groups during the late Pleistocene introduced ceramic technology in multiple places. So, in the next slide, I will talk about what happened before ceramic technology appeared in the Japanese archipelago. As I mentioned in earlier section, the microbraid assemblages characterize the final phase of the late Paleolithic period in Japan. And these assemblages cover the wide areas of Northeast Asia. So, in other words, this extensive tradition of microbraid assemblages enters the Japanese archipelago from the north and at the same time from the south and covers the entire archipelago. Here is a northern type of braid assemblages that entered via Sakhalin and Hokkaido and covers the northern part of the Japanese archipelago. And at the same time, the western or southern type of this type of microbraid assemblage enters the Japanese archipelago, possibly from the Korean peninsula, and covers the western part of the archipelago. This is the situation of the final late Paleolithic period. And these hunter-gatherers with microbraid assemblages are basically non-potters. And as I didn't mention the important fact, and this is the situation around 17,000 calibrated BP, just before the ceramic technology appears. And here is so different situation and around 16,000 calibrated BP. Here is a different situation of the Japanese archipelago. And here's the blue dashed lines indicated the rough distribution of these and so bifacial point assemblages that associate these Arias ceramics. And however, to the north and south of these bifacial point assemblages, some microbraid assemblies even remained during this period. And however, the northern hunter-gatherer groups with microbraid assemblies and didn't adapted ceramic technology at this moment, at this time. However, in the western groups, they adapted different microbraid assemblages as well as different ceramic assemblages. So, this mosaic-like distribution characterize how hunter-gatherers in the Japanese archipelago introduced ceramic technology. And so here I wrote an important sentence, and the Japanese archipelago presents a microcosm of the Far East in terms of the adaptation of ceramic technology. And here again, the hunter-gatherers with different different lithic assemblages and employed ceramic technology and at the same time. So, in other words, hunter-gatherers with microbraid assemblages introduced ceramic technology in this region. And at the same time, hunter-gatherers in Honshu Island, these bifacial point assemblages adapted ceramic technology as well. Mm-hmm. So that's why multiple hunter-gatherers groups likely played important roles even in the Japanese archipelago. So the next question here is how hunter-gatherer groups with different lithic assemblages introduced and commonly introduced ceramic and technology and at the same time. So, and I'm so sorry about that. So the question here is what prompted the introduction of ceramic technology? My current conclusion is potential contact between different groups across the region is non-negligible. And so as I mentioned in the previous slide, the hunter-gatherer groups with bifacial point and assemblages are located here. And simultaneously, the hunter-gatherer groups with microbraid assemblages are located here. They commonly introduce ceramic technology. But there may be a partial contact between these hunter-gatherer groups. Here is the evidence of this partial contact. And here is a case of Chain site here in Kyushu and the Chochi site and here and also in Kyushu Island. And so they basically employ microbraid assemblages and colored in pink here. However, they also had some components of point assemblages and colored in blue. Okay. So this suggests these hunter-gatherer groups and in Kyushu had potential contact with different hunter-gatherer groups in Honshu. Conversely, these hunter-gatherer groups in Honshu also had potential contact with hunter-gatherer groups in Kyushu. And so I suppose this potential contact between different groups can contribute to the remote distribution of ceramic technology. So, in the third section, I will talk about how did hunter-gatherers spread ceramic technology across diverse landscapes. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the hunter-gatherer groups in Parallel Honshu Island firstly adopted ceramic technology. In other words, hunter-gatherer groups to the north and to the south didn't adopt ceramic technology simultaneously. However, subsequently, hunter-gatherer groups with ceramic technology enter to the northern landscapes and at the same time to the southern landscapes. Okay, and there may be several waves of such early potters movement. And so around 13,000 calibrated BT. In other words, 3 millennia after the introduction of ceramic technology in the Parallel Honshu Island, and the hunter-gatherer or early potters in northern Japan entered this present-day subarctic regions. And after that, during the early Holocene, another hunter-gatherer groups in the northern Japan entered in the Hokkaido Island again. Meanwhile, around 14,000 calibrated BP, the hunter-gatherer groups in the Kyushu Island entered to the southern island here. And again, around 10,000 calibrated BP, another group entered to this island, this subtropical island again. It starts again, just wait. Okay, and firstly, I'll talk about how early potters entered subarctic regions. And as I mentioned earlier, around 13,000 calibrated BP, hunter-gatherer in northern Honshu made a leapfrog into the eastern Hokkaido. And the most important findings was the discovery of Taisho #3 site here in eastern Hokkaido. And currently, these materials are believed to be the earliest ceramics in subarctic region in Japan. So, and I suppose, the early potters in northern part of Parallel Honshu Island jumped into this remote island and remote regions. Because, so they are a little bit different in morphology and decoration. However, so they share a similar construction technique of pottery making. So my scenario currently is these groups jumped into northern landscape, and developed their own pottery making over several generations. And however, these the first potters in subarctic regions disappear during the Younger Dryas interstadial. And so after that, during the early Holocene, the northern hunter-gatherer groups entered to the southern part of Hokkaido Island. Because during this period, deciduous broadleaf forest in northern part of Japan extend to the southern part of Hokkaido Island. And in correspondence, the early potters bring their own technology to the southern part of the Hokkaido Island. Just a moment, please. Okay, so meanwhile, I will talk about how early potters enter subtropical islands. So, here is a very important the findings of Tokunoshima Island located here. And this island is located so far from the parallel Honshu Island, and so over 400 kilometers across open ocean. So, however, recent excavation in this island revealed the early potters around 14,000 BP, calibrated BP, entered this small island. And at the same time, recent excavations across this island revealed as early as with the onset of early Holocene, another hunter-gatherer groups from Kyushu Island navigated the open ocean over the distance of several hundred kilometers and reached these small islands and developed this distinct ceramic technology in these islands. Originally, Japanese archaeologists thought the hunter-gatherer groups brought ceramic technology in these small islands quite late. But recent findings tell us about the fact early potters were reached in these subtropical islands earlier than we expected before. So, the question here is what lies behind this rapid spread? And so my scenario is here. Small-scale hunter-gatherer groups likely played a major role. So you can easily imagine a certain hunter-gatherer groups extend their habitat to the adjacent area and made some contact with neighboring groups. It's also possible in Japan. However, here is a very different way of hunter-gatherer migration pattern. And so I'd say hunter-gatherer groups, especially small-scale hunter-gatherers, sometimes dispatch a kind of task force to distant area over several hundred kilometers. And it's really possible. And so here is a very good example of this leapfrogging migration of hunter-gatherer in Japan. And here lies a geonode site in Saitan Prefecture to the north of Tokyo metropolitan area. These ceramic vessels are basically U-shaped, okay? And so normally undecorated except for the exterior striations. And so these ceramic assemblies were discovered without ceramic vessels with local traditions. We cannot understand these ceramic assemblages with local chronological sequences. And we can even find no similar findings in the Honshu Island and even in the Honshu Island. However, we can see very similar pottery assemblage in the northern part of Kyushu Island here. Here's a famous material from Futsukaichi Cave. These ceramics are pretty similar to the ones of Juno site. They are essentially U-shaped at the same time, obliquely running striations here, and especially exterior surfaces. And radiocarbon dates from these two sites are quite similar. We have good reason to expect these hunter-gatherer groups from northern Kyushu entered over the distance of 800 kilometers to the Kanto plains. And sometimes these materials suggest the first generation migrants from the Kyushu Island. And similar cases can be found everywhere in Japan. This is just a case of such leapfrogging movement of hunter-gatherers during the late Pleistocene. This is it's very possible or plausible, and hunter-gatherers with small scale made a leapfrog to distant regions, and sometimes interconnected with local groups, and spread their ceramic technology. And here comes the fourth topics here. And I think this is very difficult question, but essential questions. What was the reason of the adoption of ceramic technology? As you understand, recent adoption of residue analysis was a big breakthrough for archaeologists. It made us possible for archaeologists to directly recognize the boiled materials inside the early ceramics. And however, you need to remember the recent repeat analysis, especially employed by European archaeologists, doesn't align with other archaeological or scientific context. The repeat analysis by European archaeologists reveals and suggested the consistent boring of aquatic resources across the archipelago and across the beyond the temporal differences. However, our data from archaeological and other isotopic analysis are very different. Here is result of isotopic analysis of boiled contents. The blue part indicates a potential boiling of marine resources. As you can easily understand, these blue parts make a very larger part of this graph or diagram in northern regions or the regions with higher latitude. Early potters basically boiled aquatic resources. However, in southern part of Japan, these blue parts are going decreasing. And here is a huge regional context of the boring target. this isotopic data and so aligns with our archaeological data. And so because, I'm sorry, I need to go back. So, and these northern regions with, and so blue one, and so characterized with, so migration ranges of anadromous fish return. So as you know, so anadromous fish such as salmon or trout, and so get back to their original river and during the fall or and early winter to spawn. And in the mid-latitude Japanese archipelago, this return area is so limited to higher latitude. And in this context, this and so I suppose these so blue parts are very so and consistent with and such so resource use and of the prehistoric hunter-gatherers. Here's a very good so and example of so anadromous fish use during the late Pleistocene and from the Maeda coast site, and located in present-day Tokyo. And this site is and so a little bit so exceptional site because and so hunter-gatherers ventured into the so former floodplains. And basically hunter-gatherers during this period so occupy the fluvial terraces. And so in contrast, and this site is located in the water side. And so very flood-prone area. So, and these hunter-gatherers and of the Maeda coast site so intensively made these spear-like so bifacial points. And at the same time, so they captured and the hunter, and so salmon, and in large numbers. Several organic materials, and so demonstrate. So these occupants and of the Maeda coast site so intensively captured salmon that ran up and possibly so early winter, and so they so cut out the edible parts here, and so they transport it for their upcoming journey. So and that's why, and so we could find only so the partial and so remains of the salmon, especially head. So, and in any cases, and the hunter-gatherers of and so northern part of Japan are so possibly so engaged in the inland fishing, especially focusing on so these anadromous fishes. And at the same time, they employ this pottery. And so unfortunately, and so we haven't conducted so residue analysis on these ceramics. However, you need to remember the case of Taisho 3 sites in Hokkaido. The site is located in the inland area of Hokkaido. However, the residue analysis there so revealed the fact that occupant of the Taisho 3 sites so boiled marine resources. That indicate they captured so salmon and in the inland area that migrated from the ocean. So and so at the same time, so the residue analysis. I'm sorry. And so in this case, so the residue analysis are both so repeat analysis and isotopic analysis are consistent with archaeological data. And so, however, and so we also need to think about the potential role of plant resources. And please wait a moment. The computer is considering. So, and in the southern part of Japan, the situation is very different. And at least the isotopic analysis doesn't so support the idea that the early potters in the Japanese archipelago so captured and so aquatic resources in these areas. And so in these areas are very so different from northern part because early potters are heavily dependent on plant resources. This is a very good case of Sankakuyama 1 site located in southern Kyushu Island. So, and this site dates back to around 14,000 calibrated pp. In other words, during the Bering arid interstadium. So the hunter-gatherers during this period in this region began to use a huge number of ceramic vessels, including larger ones of 20 liters, the capacity of 20 liters. It's quite large. So at the same time, the hunter-gatherers became dependent on plant resources, of course, and including other resources. So here's indirect evidences of these groundstones. The hunter-gatherer in southern Kyushu during this period began to employ these abundant number of cobble tools, and at the same time they incorporated this large number of ceramic vessels into their lifestyles. Okay, at the same time, they first constructed a storage pit. And so from that storage pit, we can find an abundant number of nuts. And so that's why, and it's reasonable, hunter-gatherers exploited such plant resources, and so they produce plant resources with these ground tools, or sometimes boiled and these resources with these ceramic vessels. And scientific analysis and at least isotopic analysis support this idea. So, and my scenario here is the early pottery use and in the archipelago was regionally different. So, resource intensification, including the heavy dependence on plant resources, and starts here around 40,000 calibrated pp. Here is a very good example of Sankakuyama one site, as I mentioned before, and similar sites are very abundant in these regions, such as Ojiyama site located here. In these exceptionally warmer regions was a very good habitat for early and potters. They intensified their resource intensification, and so sometimes they incorporated abundant number of plant resources into their lives, and at the same time they introduced abundant number of ceramic vessels only this area during the Bering arid interstadium. Subsequently, they expanded such resource intensification as well as abundant use of ceramic vessels. And as early as 11,000 calibrated BP. In other words, with the onset of early Holocene, the hunter-gatherers expanded such resource use and pottery use to the Kanto plains here. And finally, they expanded such resource intensification and a large use of pottery at the same time and to these northern regions as late as 9,000 calibrated BP. So, and this is why, and I suggest that the early pottery use was regional different. In northern part of Japan, early pottery used their, early potters in the northern part of Japan, so and primarily use their ceramic vessels to boil aquatic resources. In contrast, and in southern regions, early pottery primarily and boiled and so and plant resources and other resources. Of course, I don't exclude and aquatic resources even in southern regions. However, they also broadened their resource use, and so at the same time, so they employed a huge number of ceramic vessels, and such resource use and pottery use expanded gradually to the north and to the north. Here comes the final topic of my lecture, and here is more difficult and the question, and what the ceramic technology and make possible. So let's wait and see. Okay, so and firstly, and we need to consider what cooking methods did Paleolithic human use. We need to consider this topic and to evaluate the emergence of ceramic technology even in Japan. So, but this is very difficult topic to cope with, and so very limited number of Japanese archaeologists are currently working on the culinary practice during the late Paleolithic period, because the direct evidence and about this issue is very limited. But limited information and can be acquired from this kind of stone oven, and so we can call this stone heaps. But mostly these are broken and the cobbles were basically heated to red. At the same time, we can find some charcoals and beneath it. And so these stone ovens can be found even today in the southern part of Pacific area, such as Australia or Papua New Guinea or Southern America, so hunter-gatherers in this tropical area employed this and the indirect method of cooking, and they firstly heat these cobbles and then put somewhere else, and so put some their food on it, then cook them with radiant heat. This is an indirect way of cooking and of hunter-gatherers, especially in warmer regions. And these features can be found especially in the southern part of Japanese archipelago. This aligns with the current ethnographic cases. And in contrast, in northern part of Japan, especially from the Paleolithic period, so we can find several kinds of open fireplaces. Maybe hunter-gatherers during that period cooked with direct flames. And so I'm not sure about, and so there was some cooking or boiling method, such as stone boiling during this period. But current evidence doesn't support these stone ovens were used for stone boiling. So that's why Japanese archaeologists are now not sure about the actual presence of boiling during the late Pleistocene period. And so we need to talk about also, and so container technology and existed before ceramic technology. This is a very essential topic to consider the appearance of ceramic technology. So, and I suppose Paleolithic period likely had already developed sufficient weaving techniques. And this is supported by the earliest evidence of such imprints and below and on the bottom of ceramic vessels, early ceramic vessels. And these ceramic vessels around 13 to 12,000 calibrated BP are generally flat bottomed. And so that's why we can find several imprints of such woven organic materials. And this way of weaving is entirely established by this period. These weaving techniques are not different from our ethnographic cases. Or even from the Jomon period. And we can securely say, some kind of weaving techniques were present during late Paleolithic period. And so to consider this topic, we need to think about the morphology of the earliest ceramics. I suppose these shapes were very characteristic and can be a possible copy of organic woven baskets that was present during the late Paleolithic period. So, and you need to remember the earliest ceramic vessels in Japan appears with flat bottoms, not pointed bottoms or rounded bottoms. This is very exceptional case, but this happens here in Japanese archipelago. And this is a reconstruction of the vessel shape of the earliest ceramics. So you need to watch here. And so these flat bottom vessels are basically have rounded corners. They are basically in rectangular forms, but have rounded corners. At the same time, they have sometimes thickened rims like this and here. And sometimes some ceramic vessels have slightly rippled or wavy rims. This typical morphology is very similar to the organic containers, and especially during the Jomon period. So I can't explain it in English or even in our language, Japanese. However, when the Jomon hunter-gatherers or the present day craft workers, make an organic woven basket by constructing several organic stripes and with how do you say some longitudinal members and some transverse members. They construct these two materials and then bend them to construct the side parts. So this typically results in the flat bottoms with rounded corners. At the same time, these woven and the baskets are sometimes sometimes have thickened rims because you need to make some end treatment of such organic materials. And so you first cut the organic materials and sometimes bend it. So this results in such thickened rims or wavy rims. This is very typical and in the organic materials from the Jomon period. So my scenario here is this established and way of making organic containers was even present before the Jomon period. And the early potters and resembled and this made their ceramic vessels to resemble and with their previous and organic containers. You understand the meaning? It's very difficult to explain in English. So, and here's the final slide of my presentation. And what was the advantage of ceramic vessels? And to work on this issue, and so I believe, and so we need to consider about the container complex. And not only the ceramic vessels, but also the organic containers. And unfortunately, we can't currently think about the container complex of during the late Pleistocene. However, here is a good example from the Higashimyo site around 8,000 calibrated BP. The waterlogged condition preserved very rich materials. So, and here is the ceramic vessels of this period. At the same time, and over 800 organic woven baskets were found from this site. These organic and containers can be divided into two types. So here is a larger type of organic materials, organic containers. And here is a smaller type of organic containers. These two basket types are very different in terms of their size and their material and their weaving techniques. The archaeological context demonstrates their different uses. The larger ones are primarily used for soaking some plant resources. And from this site, archaeologists found many storage pits, and on the lowland. Okay, this larger baskets were found from such storage pits with acorns. And that's why it's possible, and the occupant of this site used this larger type of organic containers to soak these acorns to remove the harshness of these plant resources. And meanwhile, these small types of organic containers or organic baskets were not found from similar contexts. They were basically used for some kind of transportation. Okay, and what about the early ceramics? These ceramics were essentially had these ceramic vessels essentially were suited, or sometimes we can find charred remains in the ceramic vessels. And we can securely say these inorganic containers were used for boiling something. So we can see the practical difference of their use. And the occupants used these type of larger organic containers for storing some plant resources. And they used these smaller ones for transporting something, and use their ceramic vessels for cooking something. Here's a very distinct way of their use. And this, container complex demonstrate their dominance as boiling vessels. So, that's why, I wrote this sentence: the classical model, the pottery's heavy, fragile, yet fire-resistant nature constitutes its key advantage, remains still valid. Okay. So it's time to conclude my presentation here, I wrote the summary of each section. So you can read it, so you can remember what I told in this lecture. So this is my final slide of my lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.